We're live. Yay. All right. Welcome. The True North STEAM team is taking over Facebook today. So this afternoon, we are going to meet with several of our teachers, and we're going to talk about some exciting classes that we have upcoming this year at True North. So I hope that you will stick around. We are meeting with Sunny Hummel today, right now. She's with me now. In an hour, we're going to meet with Marceline Ayler, who's our math teacher. And a little bit later this afternoon, we're going to talk to our art teacher. So if you stick around and hang out, we'll be doing all of those things. But right now, let's talk about Miss Sunny's classes. She is teaching a lot of great classes this year and one summer class that is specifically for math to science. So she is going to be teaching mathematical concepts to help students with their quantitative reasoning and to get them prepared for some of those upper level sciences. If there were some struggles with math concepts and things like that, this would be the class that you and your student need. So let's talk a little bit about this class first. It is math for science, right? Quantitative reasoning. And this is a 6-week intensive class that's happening over the summer. So this is a really unique offering, and we do not offer this class every year. So can you talk a little bit about what the class is and also what it is designed for, or who it's designed for?
Yeah, absolutely. So this class, this is going to give students an opportunity to connect those math concepts that they might learn in like pre-algebra or algebra 1, and how to apply them into the sciences. So that's the big concept there, because a lot of times kids come from, they have all this math knowledge that they have, but they don't know how to apply it into science. And then they get to the science class and they're like, I don't know how to do this. So this is going to give them the opportunity to kind of like practice those skills. So I'm not necessarily teaching new math skills. I'm teaching how to use those math skills that they already have and putting them into the science background. So we'll touch on all sorts of different topics. But we'll analyze, like how to analyze data, like looking at real data sets will be a big thing. We're going to use real live data from all the different government websites. Graphing, how to graph, how to take your data, put it on the graphs, how to interpret those graphs. That is a big skill set that students definitely need in the sciences once they're in high school. And then like looking at patterns in your data, maybe how to represent that data in like maybe some statistical analysis type things, and then how to kind of explain the data that they did gather, put into their graphs and their tables, and now, okay, how do I explain this information to somebody? So that's kind of like how the scope of the class is going to go. We're just going to kind of move from the beginning with the math skills, and then go into how all of those math skills are actually used to explain data. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this would be, what age range would you say that this would be best for?
I would definitely say, like 8th grade, maybe 9th and 10th grade. I think it all kind of depends on where your student is. 8th grade, definitely, if they successfully completed like pre-algebra and going into algebra 1, I think they'll be great, especially if they want to go into the sciences and start off on a really, really good foot. And then like if you have a high schooler, 9th, 10th grader, who might be a little bit uncomfortable with the sciences, and the math and how all those subjects connect, that would be really good for them too. Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. And I teach some of those concepts in physical science. So I think that this is a great class. Like if you're coming into True North, even as a new student, or maybe you are not taking physical science, this would be a great class to kind of get those skills in. If you're skipping over physical science and going right to bio, or if you're a brand new student coming in, this really helps fill in the gap for that class too. So I think that's amazing. Okay, you mentioned graphing. What were some of the other topics that you're going to tackle in the class? Or if you can give us maybe a list of what you're covering each week.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just going to bring them up real quick. Okay. So we're going to start off with just precision, accuracy, the basics of how data is represented in science. We'll discuss significant figures because that is actually a really, really important concept that, especially when you get into chemistry, some students are just like, okay, I'm completely lost with these sig figs.
Yes.
Yes. And then we will discuss scientific notation, orders of magnitude, dimensional analysis, which is a basis for all sciences in high school, definitely. Rearranging equations,
Yes.
simple things, yes. Equations,
That's a big one.
we will move into discussing exponents and log scales and some roots using those skill sets and bringing them into, especially like chemistry with the pH log scale.
Yeah.
Exponents in, astronomy, when you're talking about AU units, it gets a little, a little difficult for
Yes.
some students. Of course, I already said graphing and interpreting graphs. We will do some statistical analysis, so very, very basic statistics, mean, standard deviation, mode, all those types of things that really help explain a data set that you might have. And then we will also do some like linear regressions and, the best fit line and those things, because that's like a skill set to use, especially in, I know in chemistry, we've used it in the past where you need to represent the data with a bet fit line, and some students come in and they're a little confused with that. So those are the main skills that we will be touching on throughout the 6 weeks that we're together. Yep.
That's amazing. And my daughter is taking this class this summer, and she's pretty good at math. But even being pretty good at math, as a parent, I worry about her losing some skills over the summer. So I want to continue that. And she is for sure going to go in a science field. So just making sure to kind of keep that up and also shore up some of the areas where she had some hiccups in the past year or two. Because she is going into chemistry next year as well as a 10th grader. So just making sure all those little I's are dotted and T's are crossed, I think will be really helpful for her. So as a parent, my daughter is taking this class too. So I cannot recommend it enough. If you are interested in this class, I posted a link in our first comment. So definitely hit that link and hit check out too, because these classes are very limited with the amount of students that we can take at one time, especially in an intensive class. So please make sure that you check out and get that done right away so that you can secure your spot. Okay, now we were talking a lot about how this is important to chemistry. So you teach conceptual chemistry, and how is conceptual chemistry different than a traditional chemistry class?
Yeah. So traditional chemistry tends to be a little bit more math heavy. Lots of calculations, lots of problems. With conceptual chemistry, we're really focused on the why behind the chemistry. There's very minimal math. Of course, you're going to have some, rearranging some equations, things like that, but very, very minimal in the math, because I don't want students coming in and, scared, I guess you could say, of chemistry. I want them to understand what's happening. We use a lot of real life applications. So we have some discussions on, for example, we had a discussion on wildfires and how that actually affects the soil and the air chemistry around us. That was one. We've had discussions on fluoride and how fluoride versus other things affect your teeth. So these are all like chemistry related topics. We've talked about the solubility of coffee, and like right now, like we're into our kitchen chemistry and redox reactions in the kitchen. So it's like all these things, all these topics that relate to real life. So in the class, we start off at first semester, just the I guess, the micro scale conceptual understanding of what is an atom and the periodic table and all those things. And then we move on to like the chemistry that you can see. So that would be your acid base chemistry, your solutions chemistry, um, your redox reactions, rusting. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the scope of how the class morphs. And then of course we have lots of, I want to say lots. We have a reasonable number of labs, and we do practice the lab report writing, which is such an important thing for any student, whether you're STEM based or not. You
Yes.
need to be able to communicate what you have done, even even if it didn't come out right. That's what I always tell myself. It's okay if you didn't come out the way you expected it to. That's science. You need to get it down on paper. So we do practice lab report writing.
That's fantastic. I am a big believer in lab report
Yep.
writing for so many reasons, and I do them in all of my classes too. And that's one of the things that the skill-based things that we do go over in physical science as well that I mentioned along with graphing. But yeah, I mean, lab report writing is so important just to be able to communicate any sort of technical information is really important for any type of job. And like, yeah, you could have chat GPT's help or whatever, but it misses like that human touch. And a lot of times and AI generated language, the math is incorrect, or some of the grammar is incorrect, or some of those things. So it's really important to be practicing that. And it also helps with logic skills and talking about what comes next in processes, which is not only important in science, but also in life. What is your problem? How are you going to solve it? What steps do you need to take to solve it? What's the anticipated outcome? And all of those things are really, really important. Okay, let's pin logic for a second because I do want to come back to that. But what type of students do you think are best suited for a conceptual chemistry class versus a regular chemistry class? Do you think there's some overlap there, or is there a specific type of student that thrives better in a conceptual class? Like how does that work for you?
I definitely think there's probably some overlap with students that might also succeed very well in a traditional chemistry class. But I would say, like, any student who might be intimidated by math, conceptual chemistry would be a fantastic fit because that's not our focus. And then instead of being worried about math every week, we're focusing on the chemistry concepts. So that would be a good one. Maybe younger high school students, maybe
Mhm.
students who might be wanting to take chemistry slightly earlier in their high school career. This would also be a good fit for them. I would also say, like, non-STEM based students, of course. STEM-based students are welcome to my class as well because we do a lot of thinking and discussing. And science isn't just math, it is also thinking and discussing. So I do want to say that if you're STEM-based and you're still interested in this class, like, don't shy away from it. It's still a solid foundation chemistry class. And then I would also say, maybe students who um, I would say maybe want to go at, I wouldn't say like a slower pace, but just kind of more dive more into some of these topics deeply, instead of, having such a quick, fast paced class. That makes sense.
Yes. And you
Yeah.
use some really interesting books in your class. You do
Yes.
not use a traditional
No,
textbook.
no.
So I would love to hear about what type of resources you use in your class, and how you would compare those to using a textbook.
Yes, absolutely. So I do have, it's called Homework Helpers for Chemistry. It is a no fluff chemistry. It's not even like the size of a textbook.
Mhm.
It's just, this is how you do these types of problems. This is this information. There's no fluff, there's no stories. I find it a really great resource if you just need the information without having to find, all the background kind of sort of thing. There's also some really good practice problems in there. And the answers are in there too, so students can always check if their answers are correct.
I love that.
And then what?
I love that. I love having students check their own work.
Yeah, it's great. It's time, time efficient, I guess you can say.
And it
We
teaches
all,
them what they're doing, wrong right off the bat. They don't have to
yeah,
wait for feedback, and they can just tackle that right away. So,
yeah, absolutely.
and also
Yeah,
personal responsibility, right? That's another plus.
yeah,
Go ahead. I'm
absolutely.
sorry.
Yeah,
Continue.
some of my best assignments, like students have mentioned, have been those self-checking type,
Yeah.
like digital assignments where you have to solve the problem and it makes a picture for you in Google or
Mhm.
something like that. And they love it because they're like, oh, I knew right away if I was right or wrong,
Yeah.
which is fun. And then in the first semester, we read The Disappearing Spoon.
Mhm.
That is where we learn about the periodic table, the history of chemistry, all of that. It is students read it and we discuss the chapters that were read that next class period, whether it's a little short blurb where they have to type up or we just discuss it in class. It's kind of been both there. And then the second semester, I have my dual degree and honor students and extra credit if anybody else wants to do it. We do a book study, so a case analysis, and I have a list of books that they can choose from, and they need to read it and they write up a little report on it, how it relates to chemistry, what was done wrong. It all depends on what book they chose, sort
Yeah.
of thing. So yeah, like one of them is the Radium Girls. So a lot of the students will discuss the the issues with not necessarily believing in the science when the science was right there in front of their faces and hiding in politics and all sorts of things. So it's a fun group of books, I guess you could say.
Yes, that's amazing. I love it. Okay, let's come back to logic because we talked about how all of these things are important for building the life skill of logic skills. And you are also teaching a logic class this coming year as well. So let's talk about the logic class. I know with logic, everyone is always asking, well, what are your textbooks? Because some are really hard. Some are probably a little too easy, and there's different types of logic too. So, what books are you using, and what are you planning to cover in logic?
So I am using the Art of Argument as our spine text. That will be the only book that students will need to purchase, and it's mostly the informal logic base. And then I will be bringing in, of my own accord, some information from Socratic Logic by Peter Kraft, and also Between Heaven and Hell from him as well when we get into some more of those types of logic problems. And then I'll be using the fallacy detective. Students don't need to buy all of those. The only thing they'll need to have is the Art of Argument. I think it's a fantastic book for really laying out
Yes.
what logic is. It's to the point. This is going to be a heavily discussion based class.
Mhm.
There's not going to be a ton of lecture. I really want students to be able to form arguments and figure out what's the wrong with this ad or this newspaper article and things like that.
I love it. That sounds great. Okay, you were telling me earlier today, off camera, about how you are going to be incorporating some discussion about how AI relates to logic. And
Yep.
I would love to hear more about that because AI is taking over everything pretty
Yes,
much.
absolutely it is.
And in the education world, it's become a resource for students, sometimes a problem for students.
Mhm.
But I mean, even before our conversation, I went on Chat GPT and I was like, can I have some help with these topics? And so everyone is using it now. And I think it's really important that students learn how to use it appropriately and also how to spot when something is AI versus when something is actually real. So can you tell us more about that?
Yes, and you're right. Everybody is using it. I mean, you type into Google, and the first
It's
response
just
that comes up
AI. Yeah,
is
it's built
AI, and
into these apps now. You can't get away from it. Yeah.
it's frustrating because you can't get away from it. But I really want to teach that AI can be used as a tool, but it can't be our source of truth necessarily. I
Yes.
mean, even if you go into Chat GPT, it will tell you right there that Chat GPT can be wrong, you know, always double check your answers sort of things. How many people read fine print though, right?
Yes, yes.
um, so I want students to be able to look at a AI generated response, and then be able to like ask those questions like, okay, is the reasoning here sound? What kind of assumptions are being made? Is there any evidence to support what AI is saying? And like really find the evidence, because you can use AI to give you good information, but if you don't ask AI or to give you the sources or to actually find the sources yourself, that's the problem. That's where our thinking is done by a computer instead of in our own minds.
Right.
And that's the thing, like AI, it's great for recognizing patterns and generating all these responses really quickly and making it sound half decent. But as humans, we have the responsibility to like reason with those answers and to kind of like judge and have discernment. And that's where I really want to take the students like, okay, here's your AI answer, but let's really dive deep into here and figure out if this can be truth, if it's trying to mislead you, you know, how to spot AI without a doubt sort of thing. And I mean, whether we like it or not, students are going to come across AI every single day. And I think being able to actually dive into discussing how to spot AI and how to, you know, fight with it, argue with it, debate with it, whatever you say, is going to be a skill that students are going to need to have in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It used to be that like when you were teaching kids these things, you would give them a current event and you'd be like, okay, try to spot the bias. And now you're not only like, okay, well, we have to spot the bias, but we also have to spot if this is even real or not, if this is even real content, if it's really even real information. I mean, you can put something in AI and it generates something that's totally off the wall, not even true. You know, it's not even a fact. So it's it's really hard to spot. So I love that you are including that. Okay. Well, I think that wraps up all I have today, all of the questions we're covering today, but there are links to these classes in the comments section. So feel free to pop in there and check out the links. And I believe I'm going to be talking to Sunny again in a couple of weeks on Facebook again about some other courses that she is going to be offering this year too. So keep checking back and we will have that announcement coming up. But thank you so much for joining us. Sunny, do you have any last words?
I just want to say that so teaching has just become like I've really enjoyed all my students this year. Everybody coming in has asked some really great questions, and I'm trying to help these students grow so that they can go into, you know, their next year with at least a little bit more knowledge and hopefully some more skills. And I look forward to every new student I get to meet in the future. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you at 2:00 with our math teacher. So we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
We're still live, but my end stream is not ending.
We'll just stand here and smile.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm trying to hit the end stream button. Everyone that's listening, I'm trying to hit the end stream button. It's not letting me end. Yes. I'm going to try clicking out and see if that works.
That might work. Try that.
Are we still here?
We're still here.
Oh, no.
Well, hey, while you're figuring that out, I can just talk about one of the chemistry projects.
Yes, please do. Talk about the chemistry project. Yes,
our final project for second semester chemistry is a culinary chemistry project. So students come up with a recipe, but they have to write it in chemistry terms. So anything from the Maillard reaction to acid-base reactions. And then they actually make a cooking video. So it's kind of like, old school, like this is how you cook this, but they have to use chemistry terms. That's our final project for the semester. And the recipes that these kids are coming up with are fantastic. One student did tell me that I was just trying to collect recipes to write a recipe book, but that's not true. I'll keep your recipes yours.
That's funny.
I know. It's so funny. It's so much fun.
Well, while we're waiting, and I'm still trying to figure this out, maybe you can give us a little bit of information about the expedition courses, because you are taking over some of our expedition courses, which are not only science-based, but also a little bit of history and geography too. They're kind of like a science plus class, plus more for upper elementary and junior high. I think,
yes.
Correct? What grade are those for?
I would, 6th through 8th type classes, maybe 5th grade. Yeah, upper elementary, middle school. Let me just see. I will grab up. So the first class that I will be teaching there. Uh-oh. There we go. Where am I? Oh, I lost. There we go. I was like, where's my screen? Okay. Technology. Love it, right?
I know. I can't even log out right now. I can't even close the screen.
Oh, goodness.
Not letting me. Awesome.
That's so funny. Did you try clicking leave studio?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's literally not doing anything.
That's weird. Well, I'll talk about expedition.
Okay.
In the fall, I'll be teaching a national parks expedition class, which is going to be really, really fun. So we will visit different national parks. We'll have like a little, a little passport to get stamps on. We will talk about the cultural, the history of national parks, the science in those national parks, so that it's going to definitely touch on all those separate topics. There'll be some mapping skills involved. I'm a skills gal here, so I'm not just going to teach you a subject. You're going to learn skills while learning that subject.
Yes.
Being able to read a map is foundational to life. I know we all have GPS in our pockets now, but mapping is a great thing to learn. So yeah, I already said we'll learn about some science, maybe the different like ecosystems within each of those national parks. Some of them are in pretty extreme environments. And then in the spring, I'll be teaching Mediterranean area. And that I think is going to be really fun they're all fun. I can't say that they're not fun, because they're all going to be fun. The Mediterranean, we're going to be mostly in the Southern Europe and Mediterranean basin. So, we'll learn a lot about some of the like fault lines and earthquake zones in those areas when it comes to science, because there's lots of volcanoes around that area. We'll learn about ancient civilization. So there will be just a little bit of Bible history involved, because we're, pretty darn close to the Holy Land there. The unique ecosystem of the Mediterranean basin. And of course, the history, and once again, mapping and all those things. And there will even be some like food tradition, like cultural foods involved in that class as well. Awesome. So I'm excited. Yeah, I'm really excited for both of those.
That sounds great. Okay. For all of you listening in Facebook world, we can't log out. I don't know why. So anyway, Sunny, can you take yourself out of the studio by chance?
Yes, I will try.